let's see. So working my way through this. No, I have not. All right. Why would I come back? All right, let's make a motion. We open the meeting. Let's do that first.
You want me to start with any COVID updates that I have?
Well, Scott and Chris, do you want to make a motion to approve the minutes first, or?
I don't have them.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, they weren't. I had to find them in my email.
Okay, then I'd say let's roll right into. This computer is not working well. Yeah, let's roll into whatever updates you have on the coronavirus front.
Bolton still stands at 12 cases total since March. We went up once in July and haven't had an increase since then. Chris, I did get your email on the back to school questions. I'm going to review that tomorrow when I'm back in the office, and then perhaps post a link to our website, but I kind of feel like we should keep all that with the school district. I think that if I've had a few people have called for one reason, but then asked about school, and I don't have the answers. I wish I did for my personal self, but so I'll read it and see what it says. But if it gives a link to DESE or anything like that, then maybe it's worth putting it up. There was a mask complaint that came in over the weekend. I sent you that this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I did speak to the gentleman this evening, later this afternoon, and he did say that the owner called him back and apologized for the worker, saying that the worker was out of line and would be spoken to. So it sounded like they were handling it internally, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of us went in there tomorrow and found the same thing.
And do they have all the signage up in the doors? Do we know, like for wear masks and things like that? I mean,
I would think so. I haven't been there in a while to know, or paid. Maybe I kind of turned a blind eye last time I went, hoping I didn't see anything I didn't want to see. But I don't know, maybe is it worth a letter to them like we had done in the past for some of the others, just a reminder?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Maybe, not necessarily one of enforcement, but one say, hey, we're getting calls, and if it continues, we're going to have to take action. And yeah, because part of me gets it. You get sometimes you just outright forget. I'll be halfway across a parking lot sometimes, and I'll be like, ah, crap, and I've got to go back and get my mask. I think there's, it's tough. It's tough. So.
And then there was guidance that came out last week for apple picking and hay rides and pick your own fruits and vegetables for the fall season, which I think will be, and corn mazes was a big one on there. I know last time we had the meeting, there was Chartner Farm had already posted their corn maze, but there's guidance with that now. So I think that they're fine.
And now, do we send, say, for example, the corn maze at Chartner Farm, do we send them a copy of the, I think we assume that they're following it, but.
I could just butt in real quick. It seems like most businesses are on top of the guidance more than we are, even because it's their livelihood. I'd be surprised if they weren't aware of that. It's like these businesses almost wait for the guidance to come out, but you could copy them. My guess is they're probably well aware of it.
Yeah. I was thinking that too, because I remember Rich Pelletier, when restaurants were getting ready to open, knew what he needed to do, so it was ready to go as soon as it was released. So there must be another internal communication with these businesses that they can talk to and see from these other individual departments within the state. I just get things at a very high level, which I think you get too, Chris, from Jim Garaffi. Did reconfirm that any number or any numbers that come in for coronavirus still are going to the public safety office, which would probably be Chief Nelson. Just want to make sure that protocol was still being followed, so public safety was aware if there was a positive case in town and where that home was. I don't think there's really anything else. Fall sports are kind of in a little bit of a lull right now, but they'll be gearing up again this weekend, I think. Soccer should be starting. Fall ball, baseball will be starting. But I've sent letters to each of the president of those two leagues to say, as a reminder, you can send this letter to the traveling teams that are coming to visit, because I think that's where we saw some problems. Bolton was fine. All of us were wearing masks, but you had teams coming in from other local towns that were just sitting outside and were not following. So just to kind of take that off the coaches, I think Chris, you and I talked about that on the phone. I finally just emailed it to them. And then I sent one to Parks and Rec to send to Triple Play as they manage that relationship. Because Triple Play will have a lot of different teams coming in and out. I won't be able to track all them. So they can send that letter if they need to.
Okay. That sounds like that's where we're at. Thank you very much for that. Anything new on mosquitoes?
No, Scott, if I can cut in on this, I actually emailed Tim today. I looked at the Triple E risk map that's on the mass.gov website where I find all of my information these days. The state's looking really good right now. For threat levels, there's really not a lot of in the red. No one in our area is seen as a threat right now, which is great. He also made an indication that the individual sprayings have ended. That program is now stopped. So if anybody called in and said, I want to be sprayed, it's we must be getting close to it being cool enough at night that they don't need to do that. Unless there was
I'm sorry to interrupt, but did they ever do anything up in the Century Mill area in the end or no?
I don't think so, Scott. I think that was one of the ones we had emailed on, and he was just going to keep an eye on it. I don't think they went through and did a big spray, but I can certainly follow up with him on that.
Okay. Was that the one that was there was concern about wetlands and no spray neighbors and that kind of thing?
I think there was probably some in the neighborhood that were looking to have a spray based on a concern of a neighboring town.
Well, weren't they getting a high level of a particular mosquito?
But that was it. There was
right, and
it was just a high level of a certain mosquito, but it never really amounted to any testing. Like they never tested for anything, so they didn't feel the need to have to control that.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's how you want it to work. You know, if they find a lot of them, but they're all negative, then great, no spray.
He did indicate that they did spray at the high school. That is, again, owned by the district. There was an ask to have the elementary school looked at. Again, I think that the ask of that was because they're probably trying to get the kids outside. We said we would let it sit and see if we had, bigger numbers coming up. He did not indicate that at this time. So that'll be something just to kind of keep an eye on, that if something happens where, it's a little bit warm this week, the number, something happens that we may want to just, again, Scott, keep an eye on the elementary school, because we just want to make sure that if they want to hold classes outside, recess, as much outside activity, we want them to be able to do that.
Sure.
That's all for really mosquitoes. They're looking pretty good.
All right. Well, then moving on to new topics, RCAP program well assessments. What is this?
Oh, that's me again. I'll undo my video. So I spoke with Jim, I forget his last name, last week. They are offering a well assessment, but he indicated to me that at the time when he called me, I had the package from him to review for about a week, and he said they were hoping to do about 20 assessments, and they'd already had 30 people lined up. Some within Bolton, some within the surrounding towns. Him and I just talked about the program, and it just sounds like they're doing well assessments for residents. They got a grant, but he did say beyond that, there's other things that they can do. He can continue to do not through this grant program, but other type of well assessments. Again, I do not have my notes on it. I can certainly scan and email you what he sent over to me. But I just don't know if that's something the board wants to have, communication with. We can
Well,
start.
so if I having no idea what it is, and if I understand what you're saying, is it's a program that will, I mean, how does someone become a test site? I mean, but it sounds like they'll randomly test 20
He's
wells.
reached out to me for a couple addresses for people that already reached out to him. So I've provided whatever well and septic information I've had, but it's only been 2 requests for Bolton.
Sure.
So maybe they're doing 2 in Bolton. They were trying to find high risk areas for wells. I guess we fell into that category for what they could service and what they could help with. I don't know what their end result would be. Are they looking to have well upgrade? He didn't really get into that, but he did provide a packet of information, and I will scan that over to you guys tomorrow for review.
Okay.
And then I can certainly invite him to the next meeting whenever, like the 21st or whatever date that is.
All right, sounds
if you
good.
want to know more about it. I don't know enough about, he talked about well regulations and working with those, and that's a little beyond my scope of what the board wants to address.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I reviewed, Berlin received the same package, pretty informative, but it wasn't, I don't know how these initial 20 were chosen. Like there was a survey that was included in the package that would be filled out by a homeowner if they wanted to be considered eligible, but it didn't really say much about getting to be part of that program. So, it sounds like a good resource, but it sounds like we may have missed the first pass, if you will, for active, well investigations. They want to look at well construction, water quality, things like that.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds intriguing. Any information we get for free is, good.
So I could probably post some information on our website that would also then direct them to would direct residents to their website. But I just want to make sure it's something that you guys are okay with. That it's not trying to overstep, boundaries or sell a well treatment program that
Right.
doesn't want to support.
Yeah,
So I'll send that over and we'll discuss at the next meeting.
Right. I mean, are they a for-profit operation, or is it a?
I don't think so. I'd have to actually have an email from him.
Oh yeah, why don't you send it along? We'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Put it on the agenda for next meeting, and if it's something we want to kind of encourage or be part of, we can make that decision then. So moving on to building permits, 99 Teal Road, a bathroom renovation. The bill signed 7 Liberty Road. Where is 7 Liberty Road?
Liberty is off of Wibbly as you
Skeptical.
approach the Hudson line. It's a cul-de-sac,
Oh
right?
yeah, okay, that's like that road near in Clinton that I forget about.
Yeah.
So insulation, they actually pulled an insulation permit.
Yeah, it might have been part of a mass save inspection, something like that. I forget. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. 310 Wattaquatic Hill Road and 176 a bill all squared away. No issues to worry about.
No, we had talked about 310 last meeting about adding that bathroom to the pool house, and we do have the septic tank permit tonight.
Great. So moving on to septic permit, 72 Long Hill Road. Is that a new lot or is that an upgrade?
I don't know if you remember when all this COVID started back in April, we looked at a new lot that Bruce Slater was proposing.
Yes. Okay.
And the board was okay with the proposal, but did not want to act on the permit until conservation had reviewed it. And they have recently approved and issued an order of conditions, but it did result in revisions to the septic design.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I was off Friday and Monday, so really spaced out on having the engineer forward that plan to view on the screen. But the board was okay with the original plan. This plan actually increases offset to well and septic tank and pump chamber to wetland, things that kind of brought, towards the road a little bit. So, if the board, would like to see the plan, we can certainly get it set up for next meeting, but it's pretty much an improvement on the plan that the board reviewed in April that had no issue with it.
Okay. I mean, I feel like we should do our due diligence and take a look at it next meeting before we approve anything.
Mm-hmm.
And 310 Wattaquatic Hill, again, that's just part of the above 310 Wattaquatic Hill.
Correct. That's for the installation of a 2-compartment, 1,500-gallon septic tank to allow for a bathroom and a pool house to pump to the tank. Yep.
All right. Inspection reports, 209 Main Street, 111 Hudson Road, 33 Wilder, and 77 Kettle Hole Road. Anything?
I have reviewed 111 Hudson and 33 Wilder. No issues with those. I have not had a chance to look at 209 or 77 Kettle Hole. So, we can certainly bump those to next if you choose.
Yeah. Well, yeah, why don't we do that just so if there are issues, we can address them at that time.
Yep.
Okay. Well, look at that. We're at the end of the agenda.
Now we can get to the good stuff.
Exactly. As I said, these the Tuesday post-holiday meetings are historically pretty light. So,
yes.
Does anybody else have any issues, comments, questions, concerns they want to discuss?
I have one quick one, Chris. It has to do with mosquitoes, and I don't know if you guys discussed it at the last meeting. I wasn't there. It has to do with the schools, and whether they spray or not. We have kind of a current thing of no spraying on town property. The schools are town property, but my feeling is that they are operated on a day-to-day basis by the school district. And, I would defer to them on what they want to do in terms of spraying. So I just wanted to make sure you guys have the same sort of opinion that while it is technically town property, they really operate and make decisions on things like spraying and basically operating the schools on a day-to-day basis.
It would be very nice if they communicated with the Board of Selectmen, which would be the other agency that might be in charge, and just make sure they're on the same wavelength. I can't see why the Board of Selectmen would object, but it might be nice if they were on board. Other than that, I completely agree with you, Scott.
And again, it is based on when we had the committee, Scott, it is just Florence Sawyer and the Emerson building that are town property. The high school is district and therefore would not need to come to the town and ask. I think that was discovered when we were in the committee. So when we speak of the schools, it is really just that property over at Florence Sawyer. So the Florence Sawyer School and the Emerson School, which are essentially one property in my opinion, but two separate areas. But the high school is kind of their own thing, and those decisions would be made by the district.
But does the district own the high school land?
Yes. I believe so, because it's part of all three towns. So it's a little special. So I don't know if Bolton would, I mean, that would be Bolton, Lancaster, and Stowe having to make a decision on what to do at the high school, because it's all three towns, even though it's in Bolton.
So, but refresh my memory.
I can clarify that with Don again tomorrow, but I believe when we were talking about before, I clarified with him again that the high school was district, they can do their thing. Whereas the elementary school, or again, Bolton is K-8 at Florence Sawyer School, would be town property.
And the high school, I think you'd mentioned earlier, has already sprayed.
Correct.
But we have not sprayed Florence Sawyer or Emerson.
No.
I mean, I guess
I'm sure they were.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sure they were spraying the high school too to make sure they kept sports in. Right. Because again, I think last year they had a big problem when sports got up and running is when everything was getting canceled. So I'm sure their concern was a little bit of that as well. Obviously, there's no students having class outside there, so that is their main concern, I guess, now that I talked about that.
Yeah, so that being said, I mean, at the very least, can we talk to Central Mass and ask, request like more testing around the school and, maybe just more surveillance? Or Scotty, do you think we should just we should have them spray regardless just to make sure that the environment's safe?
Well, first of all, they were part of the committee and bought into the policies we outlined, which really means, they shouldn't be spraying because we don't have, positive testing mosquitoes in the central Mass or in the
Right.
surrounding towns.
And this is the high school. This is the high school, right?
Well, also, I think
both.
there's a desire to do the elementary schools as well. My feeling is, that they should make the call. They operate it. My hope is that they will stick with the policies, but if they don't, they'll need to explain to the public why.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's kind of what I've told Tim, that they don't need to ask our permission to do what they want to do in terms of spraying.
And again, to kind of close this circuit for myself, so was it Central Mass Mosquito that sprayed at the high school, or was it a contractor like they had hired last time?
No, it's Mass, because Tim sent me an email.
Okay.
No, was it Tim? I think it was Tim sent me the email asking about the two properties, to which I reached out to Rob, kind of found out the situation. He explained, what they were trying to do, the high school, the elementary school, the other schools in the district were sprayed, whether by Central Mass or individual. And they were just trying to keep Bolton schools up with that. So, Rob reached out to Tim. Tim did it. But Tim also reached out to us, to the Board of Health, to me, and Scott probably, I think maybe you were on, I don't know if the email went to you.
Yeah.
And, just to get everybody in the same alignment.
Okay.
So, I felt good that there was some protocol being followed, that it wasn't just one person made a phone call and the other person acted upon it, that there was backup and follow up. So
Right. But so this Rob guy, is that his name?
Rob Frieswick, yeah, he's the facilities manager of the district,
Okay. Of the entire district.
the entire.
And so again, just to play catch up here, so he reached out and contacted you and Central Mass specifically for the high school.
Was both. I think he reached out to Central Mass and said we would like the school property sprayed.
Okay.
And then I believe Central Mass went ahead and did Lancaster and Stowe. Maybe they reached out to their boards of health. I don't know that.
Okay. All right.
But he did reach out to me because he knows Bolton handles it a little bit differently.
So it sounds, Scott, like the system's kind of working the way we want it to. Is that the facilities guys making the call, going to Central Mass, keeping us in the loop, and then they're addressing the spraying.
Well, yeah, except they came to us and said, Rob's made this test. Are you guys okay with it?
Yeah.
And my response back was, they operate the schools. If they request it, go ahead. You don't need to check with us every time. Now, Kristen did raise some concerns that, hey, that's town property and, do we really want to go that route? But, my feeling is it's a little different because they manage what goes on those properties.
Right. I would agree. Okay. So it sounds like it's working.
Yeah, and Kristen, if you hear of anybody that has concerns, Don or the selectmen or whatever,
Okay.
Let me know, but let's just operate that way.
I'll send Don just an FYI on that. And if he wants to bring it up, I believe there's a Board of Select meeting this week. He can address it at that time. I mean, we're really in the, if you look at the day, I was asking Tim, I said, I believe at this time last year was when the state did their spraying. I want to say September 10th. So we're in the zone where we were last year, and it was really, sports were being canceled. Nobody was allowed to go outside. And he said things are looking really good. So knock on wood, that continues. But we should, I don't know if we have warmer weather this week, if that's going to peak something. But again, this time last year, the state, if I go back to my notes, we're in that time period where the state started doing their spraying. And I haven't heard
Right.
anything else about it since that initial one a couple weeks back. Wasn't in this area, so I didn't really pay much attention. But again, looking at if you go to mass.gov, they have and you just type in EEE in the search bar, it brings you right to a site, and they have a risk map. You can see every city, town. If you're traveling somewhere for the weekend and want to know, or, who's doing what, it's looking pretty good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So that being said, anything else everyone wants to discuss?
Very briefly, I did read the report on the landfill and the testing that NGI did. It appears that everything is doing very well. And I will drop this back with Michelle so that she can keep it on file if either any of you would like to read it. But looks good.
Excellent.
Also with that, when he sent me the hard copy of that report, and then 2 weeks later followed up with an email copy of it, so I do have an email. So at that point, I just filed the email and did not realize that the invoice was on there. So the invoice is going to have to be paid off of town meeting next year, because it was prior to the end of the fiscal year. I kind of got in a little trouble for that. Oops. Sorry. So to him, and I'll talk to Don again. I was off 2 days last week, was not in the office today. I'll talk to Don about it tomorrow
Okay.
as an FYI.
Oh, you
Sounds good.
received it, you just threw it away.
I just filed it, read it.
Yeah.
I
There you
Good,
go.
we received
a
it.
hard copy, and I just put it in my email. You didn't tell me there was an invoice on it.
I don't see why you can't pay it, for heaven's sakes. You received it timely and put it on the warrant. Well, just throw it away afterwards.
It was still in my first fiscal year.
There you go.
I'll go with that.
There you go. All right. Well, sounds like we're all good. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you guys in a couple weeks.
All right.
All right, Chris.
Good night.